What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Eye Test, where we simplify your process as a fantasy football manager. We're back for another episode, and today we're going over 4 losers of the NFL offseason. That includes the draft, because we had a very wacky draft, and we're still talking about it, because quite honestly, we don't have much to talk about until the beginning of the season. But before we get started on this episode, guys, go ahead and press the subscribe button down below. You can also like this video and comment below who you think is the biggest loser of this offseason. Someone you just are a little scared to have on your fantasy team. Drop him in the comments down below and share this with your friends so that they can view it too, because we are here to make this easy for you. One of our first losers that we're going to be getting into today, he had a very profound rookie get drafted on his team, and that is Drake London. That might catch you guys by surprise. Why is Drake London one of the biggest losers in the NFL offseason? Paul, what makes you think Drake London is a fantasy loser?
Yeah, so I have Drake London joining the very big TV show from the early 2000s, The Biggest Loser. I got him up there for one of the bigger losers this offseason. I know what everybody's thinking. He's an awesome young receiver. He's up and coming, and I agree with you completely. I think the talent with the kid is through the moon. But what scares the heck out of me is 2 big things here. One, they didn't draft a quarterback. They didn't look into the quarterback position this year. They didn't look to improve. They're rocking with Desmond Ridder, who, I don't know about you guys, but I got to watch him last year, and he just doesn't pass the eye test for me. So they didn't address the quarterback situation this offseason at all. I think that maybe they had all their eggs in Lamar Jackson's basket, but sorry, he's a Raven for the next 5 years. But the other big thing for me here is they used a top 10, I believe it was the 8th pick, in a young man called Bijan Swiftness 2.0 Robinson. And Bijan is going to come over, and Arthur Smith has already drawn up so many plays that feature Bijan. He's going to run the heck out of the football. He's going to try and eliminate Desmond Ridder's mistakes. And with that, that just hurts Drake London. So the fact that they did not address the quarterback situation and they brought in probably a generational talent in Bijan Robinson, I am just not out on Drake London, but he's definitely a loser.
Yeah, you did say he was the biggest loser, so I'm going to remember that you're totally out on Drake London.
I was just mentioning the TV show. I was just talking about the TV show. He is
you got to stick to that.
Maybe not the biggest, but he's a big loser.
But yeah, I mean, it certainly seems like it, because the Falcons ran the ball a ton last year, and it's not like Drake London certainly passed the eye test from, like, talent-wise, NFL player-wise, but for fantasy-wise, he wasn't putting up consistent production, and he definitely wasn't hitting, like, those high ceilings that we want our wide receiver ones to do. And bringing in Bijan just does not help, because it's not like they're going to run the ball any less. So even if they run the ball the same amount of times, which I think they're going to run it more, yeah, Drake London's production just, I don't see it. I don't see it. Now, if they were to trade for a veteran quarterback and then draft Bijan, I would maybe have some hope. But with Ridder throwing him the ball, it's not looking too good. Bob, what do you think about Drake London on the Falcons this year, or on your fantasy team?
I think you are a little too down on Ridder. I don't think he's going to be that good, but he's going to be better than what they had. My biggest concern is, like you said, Paul, with them drafting Bijan Robinson in an already run-heavy offense, and now they're further incentivized to run the ball even more. But I'm going to take this a step further and say you should be worried about Atlanta's pass catchers. So that means London and Kyle Pitts. So basically what you're going to want, or what you're going to be hoping for as an owner of them this season, is that they're more efficient, because they're not going to be getting more volume at all. So if you're hoping for crazy efficiency out of London or Kyle Pitts, I just don't think it's going to happen. And we saw last year, even without Bijan Robinson, they weren't terribly efficient, and none of them really had those ceiling games. So I expect more of the same. Maybe they'll take a little bit of a step forward with a very minuscule improved quarterback play, but if you're banking on the efficiency, I just don't see it.
The one thing I can say is having Bijan in the backfield, defenses have another target that they have to, keep in mind.
Yeah.
So it may be able to open them up a little bit more, but now we're relying on quarterback play there.
Yeah. And
So it's certainly risky to have any of those two pass catchers.
Yeah, and let's just hope that maybe the Falcons have a plan for the 2024 draft. I mean, it looks like they've given Ritter the keys this year and said, hey, man, go after it. If you play well, maybe, but if you don't, I'm sure they will address it next year.
But before we move on, though, I think something needs to be said to separate fantasy and real life. If Ritter actually plays well and the Falcons are winning, but he's not putting up good fantasy numbers, they're still going to play Ritter.
Yeah, and
if
Drake
they make,
London's just not going to turn out too well then.
I'm not making any kind of predictions with these Atlanta guys, the pass catchers or anything, but it may be a situation where Ritter is good enough to be a starting quarterback for them, but they may just not be a great fantasy offense.
Yeah.
But we'll see.
I mean, Arthur Smith has come out last year and said he does not care about your fantasy team. So the Falcons don't care about your fantasy team.
I don't think anyone does, sadly, dude. I wish they did. That would be so cool.
Austin Eckler does. Austin Eckler does.
That's true. He's a G, dude. I'd love to have him on my team. That's one guy I've never had on my team. But, the pass catchers in this league are certainly taking a big hit. Another group of wide receivers, we can say, but I'm really thinking of particularly one receiver, and that's Tyler Lockett. I think the Seahawks, in all parts of their offense, took some type of hit. We are hearing all the chatter with the Kenny Walker taking a big hit after they drafted Charbonnet. And then, of course, all the rookie hopefuls that wanted Charbonnet are now afraid to take him because he's on a team with Kenny Walker. He's sharing a ball with Kenny Walker. But the Seahawks also drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, which I think is a much larger deal than the fact that they drafted Zach Charbonnet on day 2. I mean, this is their first-round pick. They're probably going to utilize him very early, Jackson Smith and Jigba. And the receiver that I think that's going to take the biggest hit out of the two main ones is going to be Tyler Lockett. He's older than DK. DK is more dominant, we can say. I think we can all agree on that he is more dominant. He's definitely the wide receiver 1 on that team. Not taking anything away from Tyler Lockett. He's had an excellent career and somewhat of a bounce-back year last year, I'd say. But Bob, what are your thoughts on Tyler Lockett? Do you think it's as big as a hit, the fact that they drafted Jackson Smith and Jigba, as I do, or do you think it's not that big of a deal?
I do think it's a big deal. I think if you're expecting Tyler Lockett to repeat his performance from last year, and even DK, honestly, I'm going to kind of wrap this into a Seattle pass catcher thing like I did with Atlanta previously. When you draft a wide receiver in the first round, he inevitably is going to take volume away from your other receivers. And DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are very good receivers, but they're not guys like Justin Jefferson that is in the top 3 receivers in the league. So it's very possible. I don't know how early it'll happen, but it's very possible Jackson Smith and Jigba is the best wide receiver on this team, and he's the best wide receiver by the end of the year. So I think that means that he would be taking so much volume from them, and the first guy that would be losing that volume is Tyler Lockett because, like you said, because of the age. And I believe they do have an out in his contract at the end of this season as well.
I mean, there were rumors of DK getting traded last year, but he ended up re-signing, right? So he's going to be there for the long term.
Yeah.
Paul, are you a Tyler Lockett fan next year?
I want to be. I want to see where he lands, though. I don't think it'll be in Seattle. I think that if he goes somewhere that needs, a tried-and-true wide receiver, too, I would like him next year. But, yeah, this year, unfortunately, because of his age and because of the draft capital they invested in JSN, it's no longer the Tyler Lockett show in Seattle. Not that it really has been since DK has been there. But Tyler Lockett's just the odd man out here. And it's unfortunate because he has been a good player. Fantasy-wise, he's been extremely efficient. I mean, he is Mr. Efficiency himself for fantasy managers. You look down at your score, and it's Lockett's dropping a goose egg. And then, 5 minutes later, you're like, Lockett's got 23 points off of 3 catches on one drive.
That's exactly how it goes. It's always in the fourth quarter.
I'm a genius. That's great. Like people are trying to buy Lockett like after the first quarter. Like, look, he's got 0 points. He's got 0 points.
Yep.
But
Yep.
yeah, so unfortunately, he's just the odd man out in this situation. And like
He's
Bob
old.
was saying, JSN's a superstar.
Yeah.
JSN is a superstar, but I just want to throw this out here. Let's not completely throw it out the window that like JSN still has to compete. He has to compete, and he's able to. Don't get me wrong. They're going to give him the options to do it, but he's got to execute and beat out these pros in the NFL that have been successful for the last 3 to 5 years.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be an interesting offseason to watch. I'm really interested in watching the Seahawks pass catchers, the Atlanta pass catchers, and then I'm also wondering about the Los Angeles Chargers pass catchers and what's going to happen there.
A lot of pass catchers.
They got Quentin Johnston. They have Mike Williams. They got Keenan Allen. They're both old. They're both older. And they're both injury prone. Maybe that's why I think they're so old, because they just keep having hamstring issues like they're Odell Beckham Jr.
Yo.
Deshaun Jackson. Hey, I'll roast one of mine too. He's one of yours also. For 3 games. So what do you guys think, like, between Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who's the biggest loser out of these? Paul, we'll go to you.
I think it's easily Mike Williams here. Easily. And if the main reason for me is that they literally drafted Mike Williams' prototype in Quentin Johnson. They went and they got a big body receiver who's a downfield threat, and he is essentially there to replace Mike Williams. I don't know Mike Williams' contract situation right now, but he is the same type of receiver, the same type of profile, just a younger version. And like you said, like, it is a what have you done for me lately league. And Mike Williams always seems to be getting hurt. And Keenan's starting to get hurt a little bit too. But they literally drafted, I don't want to call him the Walmart version of Mike Williams.
Mike
but
Williams 2. Mike Williams
yeah,
2.0.
Mike Williams 2.0. They got like they traded in their 2015 Toyota Camry for a 2023 Toyota Camry.
Ooh, yeah, that's not good.
And I just think Mike Williams is going to be not a big portion of this offense, although I don't have Williams' stats handy, but he has been a 1,000-yard receiver before. I know at least once or twice in this league.
I think the year before last year he was.
Yeah.
So it looks Mike Williams has a potential out clause in 2024. So he's good for this year on the Chargers, but not necessarily 2024. Little update there. And the one nice thing about Keenan Allen is, like, he drove fantasy managers up the wall last year. However, Bob, he came back at the right time, and he did put up enough production. He did for you to be like, okay, I can do another year of Keenan Allen. Because he came back and was getting like 13 points a week.
John, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to fall into the trap again. I'm going to take him in redraft, and he's going to pull his hamstring in week 2. But he is absolutely worth the risk because he is dominant in fantasy when he's on the field. And that's 100% worth taking the risk for, because you know you're going to get production immediately. But going back to your question, I completely agree. Mike Williams is definitely the biggest loser here. I think Keenan Allen is a Charger for life, whether they let him go and then restructure, or they restructure before they let him go or something. I think he's going to be a Charger for life. I think Mike Williams is a goner after 2024. And like Paul already said, Mike Williams has been more injury prone than Keenan Allen, honestly. And Quentin Johnston is Mike Williams 2.0. So I completely agree. I do not expect Mike Williams to be on the Chargers after this season. And he is by far the biggest loser.
Mike Williams, the 2025 Baltimore Raven wide receiver 3.
Dude, chill with that, man.
Can we see it?
No. I mean, yeah, we can. We can. And that's the sad part.
Yeah, that is, because you guys would be like, let's go, Mike Williams.
He comes into the press conference like on crutches already. Like,
all right, let's wrap this one up. This is one, no one's really talking about this guy, and I think it's because as of now, on paper, I guess he's still a stud running back, but we started to notice it last year. Last year definitely was the first year he did not pass the eye test, and we certainly made note of it. But then the season ends, and people stop kind of talking about drama and the rumors going on in the NFL, and it seems like we kind of forget that Alvin Kamara still has a case going after him. There's a chance that he does not play the first half of the season, and it also looks like the Saints are looking in the other direction in terms of the running game after they drafted Kendre Miller. So we have Alvin Kamara as our final loser of the NFL offseason for now. And I'd like to hear what you guys have to say. Bob, I feel like you were a Kamara owner a couple years ago, right?
I traded for him in redraft last
That's
season.
right. Are you still attached to Alvin Kamara, or are you over him?
I am in all formats. Maybe he will come on late in the season, but I'm pretty much all out on Alvin Kamara. I would be trying to get rid of him everywhere.
Is that because of the draft you're over him, or because of the case?
I think it's just a confluence of everything going on. They drafted Kendre Miller in the second round. They signed Jamal Williams, so it looks like his workload is going to be in question a little bit, at least at this point in time. He also wasn't utilized properly and didn't perform that well last season, which isn't good for a guy that's in his late 20s at the running back position. And he just doesn't, I hate to say it, but I just don't think we're going to ever have the Kamara that we used to have. And that's typical because of where he is at this point in his career.
Yeah, it's usually when running backs' downfalls begin, it usually starts with an injury of some sort. And it seems like Kamara hasn't really been injury prone, but everything else is going wrong for the guy.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's a combination of all three of those things. He's getting older. They're signing older running backs that were more productive than him the previous year, and they're drafting younger. So it's not looking too good for Alvin Kamara. Paul, would you draft Alvin Kamara in the 5th round of a redraft league?
If I've had a few drinks, maybe. But if I'm...
You can't justify that.
If I am...
I hope you do, though.
Yeah, no. If I am of sound mind, I'm not touching Alvin Kamara. And really, I think Bob hit it on all points there. The only thing I will add is I think when Drew Brees walked out of that locker room, he took Alvin Kamara's fantasy value with him.
Yeah.
And ever since Drew Brees left, ever since the whole check down king left, Kamara has not been a superstar. I mean, he's barely been efficient when he's on the field and when he does get those looks. And you throw all that on top of the supposed suspension that's going to come. You throw that on top of the capital they've invested in the running back position this offseason. I just don't think Kamara's done as a fantasy player. I mean, he might be a guy that you can service on your bench, but I'm certainly not drafting him in any position where I'm drafting starters for my team. Absolutely not. There's no way. Unless you're hoping for, maybe late in the season, if there's an injury or something like that. I think he may, if the Saints figure out how to use him again, unlike last year, he could probably have some flex value, but I don't think he's a starting running back in fantasy this upcoming season. Yeah, and not that these two are relatively correlating together because Kamara's facing a suspension, but ever since I got burned by Le'Veon Bell that one year where he held out and then just never played, and I used the second round pick on, or the second overall pick on him. Whenever I see that word possible suspension or possible holding out, I'm like, nope, I'm not doing that song and dance again.
Yeah, and you have all your league mates trying to push for an earlier draft. You're like, dude, can we just wait till the court case?
I was like, wait until after Labor Day weekend, please.
I think the court case for Kamara is sometime in July, so we will certainly know by the time preseason and even mock draft season begins. So you guys can certainly stay up to date with us on all things social media. We are on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and of course, YouTube, which we would need you guys to subscribe to if you guys want to see when we're posting. We like to post once a week. We did the losers today. We're going to come out with the winners tomorrow. after the draft, we certainly have some winners. Everyone wants to know who these winners are. These are your must-draft guys that you want on your fantasy team for next year. So don't forget to tune in tomorrow to watch our 4 biggest winners of the NFL offseason. Thank you guys for watching. We will see you tomorrow.
Peace.